A billionaire who never allowed children inside his mansion thought he had buried his past for good. But the day a struggling maid sneaked her twin boys into his home, one tiny question from those children opened a wound he had been running from for 7 years. What happened next shook him so deeply that his cold, quiet mansion would never be the same again. Jonathan Cole liked silence. He liked it so much that his whole mansion felt like a museum. Every corner of the house was neat, every room untouched, and every sound from the outside seemed afraid to enter. He lived alone in that big house in Charlotte, North Carolina, and he planned to keep it that way. No noise, no mess, and no children. That was his #1 rule. No kids were ever allowed inside. For 7 years, Jonathan lived the same way. He woke up early, drank black coffee, stared at the same wall for a long time, and pretended he was fine. He worked from home most days, gave strict instructions to everyone who worked for him, and never opened the doors to anyone unless it was important. People in Charlotte said he was cold, but Jonathan did not care. The quiet helped him breathe. It helped him forget what happened in the past, even if forgetting never really worked. Anna had no idea what true silence felt like. Her life was the complete opposite. She lived in a small one-room apartment in East Raleigh with her twin boys, Noah and Caleb. They were 2 years old, full of energy and full of questions. They ran around the apartment with tiny feet, played with cheap toys, and sometimes cried through the night when they were sick. Anna loved them with her whole heart, but she was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the kind that sits inside your chest and makes breathing feel heavy. She worked 2 jobs to survive. One at a small diner during the day, and one cleaning offices at night, while a neighbor watched the boys. Her hands were always dry from cleaning products, her body always sore, and her mind always thinking about the next bill. Noah had ear infections often, Caleb needed a special inhaler, and there were doctor visits she struggled to pay for. The eviction notice on her table made her worry even more. She kept hiding it under a stack of mail, but hiding it did not make it disappear. One night, after cleaning floors at an office building, Anna sat on the bus holding her phone. She was scrolling through job posts with tired eyes when she saw something that made her stop breathing for a second. Private housekeeper. $95,000 a year. She read it twice to make sure it was real. Requirements were simple: cleaning, organizing, and keeping the house quiet. She sat up straighter and whispered a small prayer. Maybe God was finally giving her a chance. The interview was the next morning. Anna wore her cleanest dress, even though it still looked old. She arrived at Jonathan's mansion and almost turned around. The house looked like a movie house. Tall gates, wide driveway, trimmed lawns, and windows that looked like mirrors. She stood at the door, taking a deep breath, until a voice behind her said her name. She turned around and saw Jonathan for the first time. He was tall, dressed in a dark suit even though he was at home, and his eyes looked tired in a way that made her wonder what he had lived through. He did not smile. He did not greet her kindly. He only said in a flat voice, "Follow me." Anna followed him inside. The place felt dead. No toys, no laughter, no pictures on the walls, just cold furniture and empty rooms. Jonathan walked ahead of her and spoke without turning. "I need silence. I need privacy. And I do not allow children in this house. If you break that rule, you are gone." Anna nodded quickly. "Yes, sir, I understand." And she meant it. She needed the job more than anything. She needed to give her boys a better life. Jonathan hired her on the spot because she looked quiet and gentle, and he believed she would follow the rules. For the next 3 weeks, Anna did everything right. She cleaned in the early hours, polished tables, washed windows, organized books, and kept herself invisible. She barely looked at Jonathan unless he spoke to her directly. He liked it that way. He liked that she did not bring noise into his world. But Anna noticed things about him quietly. She noticed how he walked the halls at night when he thought no one was awake, how he stared out the windows with a lost look in his eyes, and how he held his coffee cup like he was trying to stop his hands from shaking. She wondered what kind of pain he was carrying, but she kept her thoughts to herself. She was only there to work. Everything was fine until the day everything fell apart. Anna woke up one morning to a message from her daycare. Closed due to health issues. No warning, no backup, no help. She stared at the message with panic rising in her chest. Noah was already crying with a fever, and Caleb clung to her shirt calling Mama over and over. She tried calling her neighbor, but the neighbor had traveled to visit family. Anna sat on the edge of her bed, holding her head. She thought about calling Jonathan, but she remembered his rule. No kids. She looked at the twins, at the half-empty medicine bottle on the table, at the unpaid bills stuffed in a drawer, and she whispered, "God, please help me." She could not lose this job. It was the only thing keeping her from losing everything. So she made a choice that scared her. She packed the boys' diaper bag, dressed them quietly, and drove to Jonathan's mansion before sunrise. She knew he usually spent his mornings in his office on the other side of the house, so she sneaked the boys into a small storage room he never used. "Sit here, babies," she said softly. "Please, be calm today. Just today." Noah crawled into her lap. Caleb played with a plastic car she brought. For hours, they stayed quiet. Anna cleaned the house like normal, her heart pounding every time she heard a small sound. She kept checking on them, wiping their noses, giving them water, praying nothing would go wrong. Then, at around 10 in the morning, everything went wrong. Jonathan came home early. Anna heard the front door close loudly, and her whole body froze. She rushed to the hallway and saw him walking toward the unused room. She felt her heart stop. She ran after him, but she was too late. Jonathan opened the door, stepped inside, and stopped. Two small boys sat on the floor, toys beside them. Noah looked up and smiled. Caleb clapped once, like he was excited to see someone new. Jonathan's face changed. His jaw tightened, his eyes narrowed, and his voice came out sharp like a knife. "There are children in my house." Anna felt the world collapse under her feet. She stepped forward, shaking, her hands trembling. Jonathan turned to her, his face filled with anger he had held inside for years. "You brought children into my house. I told you my rule. I told you no kids." Anna tried to speak, her voice weak. "Please, sir, I had no choice. My daycare closed. I had no one." Jonathan pointed at the door. "Get them out. Get out. You are fired." The words felt like stone hitting her chest. Noah started crying from the loud voice. Caleb covered his ears and whimpered. Anna dropped to her knees, trying to calm them. "Please, sir, please listen. I did not want to break your trust. I had nowhere else to go." But Jonathan shook his head. His voice was cold. "Leave." Anna picked up Noah and reached for Caleb. Tears ran down her face. She could not believe this was happening. Everything she worked for was gone in one moment. She apologized again and again, her voice shaking, but Jonathan would not look at her. She carried her boys out to her car, crying the whole time. She whispered, "I am sorry, babies. Mama is so sorry." And inside the mansion, Jonathan stood alone, staring at the spot where the boys had sat. For some reason he could not understand, his heart felt like it was cracking open. He took a deep breath, but it came out shaky, and he touched the wall beside him like he needed support. He whispered to himself, "Why does this hurt?" He did not know the answer yet, but he would soon, because something in that room, something in those boys, had touched a wound he buried years ago. A wound that was finally waking up. Anna did not drive home right away. She parked behind a small grocery store in East Raleigh, turned off the engine, and let her forehead rest on the steering wheel. Her whole body shook. Noah and Caleb were in their car seats, quiet now, watching her with wide eyes. They had never seen their mother cry like this. Not this hard, not this long. Noah reached out his small hand and touched her shoulder. "Mama, okay?" Anna wiped her face quickly and forced a smile she did not feel. "Yes, baby. Mama is okay." She said the words because she wanted to believe them, not because they were true. Her chest felt heavy. Her eyes felt tired. Her heart felt like it was breaking with every breath. She opened her phone with shaking fingers and typed an email to Jonathan. She apologized for everything, said she understood why he was angry, and said she was resigning immediately. Before she could change her mind, she hit send. Then she leaned back and cried again, softer this time. She had fought so hard for that job. She had prayed for that job, and now it was gone. She drove home, the twins falling asleep in the back. When she carried them upstairs to her apartment, she felt the thin carpet under her feet, the broken hallway light flickering above her, the same old smell of old wood and cooking oil. Everything felt smaller than before, like the walls were closing in. She put Noah and Caleb to bed, covered them gently, and sat on the couch, staring at the eviction notice, hiding under her bills. She pulled it out this time. The date stared back at her, like a warning she could not escape. She whispered, "God, what am I supposed to do now?" While Anna sat alone in her small apartment, Jonathan stood in the middle of his silent mansion. The room where he found the twins felt colder than before. He looked down and saw something lying near the wall, Caleb's toy car. The small plastic one with chipped paint. Jonathan bent down and picked it up. His hands shook when he touched it. He turned the car over slowly, like it was something fragile. The missing wheel, the scratches, the cheap plastic, all of it felt more real than anything inside his mansion. He sat down on the floor, his back against the wall. The house was too quiet again. The silence felt heavy. He closed his eyes and tried to breathe, but the breath caught in his chest. Then an old memory rose inside him. Emily, his wife, her hand in his, her laugh, the way she used to place his hand on her round belly and say, "She is kicking again." Their baby girl, Lily. He could still see the way Emily smiled when she talked about the future. Then the memory changed. Headlights, screeching tires, Emily's scream, the crash, the doctor's voice saying the words he could never forget. "We did everything we could." Jonathan opened his eyes fast, trying to push the memory away. He rubbed his face with both hands, breathing deeply. He had spent 7 years pretending the pain was gone, but one moment with Noah and Caleb had brought everything back. He whispered to the empty room, "Why did she say that? Why did that child say Daddy sad?" He did not know. But the way she looked at him, the way her little voice touched something deep inside him, it felt like she saw the truth he had been hiding. And that scared him more than anything. Hours passed, and he did not move. He sat on the floor until the evening light faded and the room grew dim. He held the toy car like it was something precious, something that connected him to a world outside his silence. His phone buzzed. Anna's resignation email. He did not open it. He stared at it, locked the phone, and set it aside. Something inside him refused to let this end like that. The next morning, Jonathan tried to work. He joined a conference call about a company merger. People on the call talked about money, profits, deals, and numbers. He listened, but his mind stayed somewhere else. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Caleb's small hands holding the toy car, or Noah crawling toward him without fear, or Anna crying while begging him to let her explain. He ended the call early, said he was not feeling well. It was the truth. He walked through the mansion slowly, room by room, seeing it with different eyes. He saw how empty it was, how dead it felt. Every room was too clean, too cold, too perfect. The kind of perfect that comes from a place with no life. He walked into the playroom he had not opened in years. The room still smelled like new plastic. The rocking horse was untouched. The books were still wrapped. The toy chest had never been opened. He had planned to use this room for Lily. But he never did. He sat down on the carpet and placed Caleb's toy car beside him. His chest felt tight, his eyes felt warm, and his breath came out shaky. "I cannot keep living like this," he whispered softly. Then he stood up, grabbed his phone, and did something he had not done in a long time. He called his lawyer. "Mason, I need an address," he said quietly. Mason paused. "Whose address?" Jonathan swallowed. "Anna." Mason did not ask why. 30 minutes later, he sent the address. Jonathan looked at it and knew exactly where it was. East Raleigh, a neighborhood he had driven past many times, a place people like him never stopped to look at. But today, he was going there. He changed out of his suit and put on jeans and a simple shirt. He looked at himself in the mirror for a long moment. His reflection looked tired, older, and unsure, but something inside him felt awake for the first time in 7 years. He grabbed his keys, walked out of the mansion, and drove toward East Raleigh. His car looked out of place in that old neighborhood. Children playing outside stopped to stare. Some pointed. A man sitting on the steps of an apartment building shook his head like he could not believe what he was seeing. Jonathan parked near a tall, worn-out 4-story building with peeling paint and cracked windows. He sat in the car for a moment, breathing slowly. He did not know what he was going to say. He did not know if Anna would even open the door, but he knew he had to try. He walked up the stairs, each step creaking under his weight. The hallway light flickered. He found apartment number 12. He lifted his hand to knock, then let it fall. His heart beat fast in his chest. He tried again. He knocked softly. There was movement inside, slow footsteps. The door opened a little, the chain still locked. Anna peeked out. Her eyes widened. Her face went pale. "Mr. Cole?" Jonathan swallowed and kept his voice steady. "Anna, I need to talk to you, please." Anna hesitated. She did not know if she should trust him, but something in his eyes looked different, softer, almost broken. She slowly removed the chain and opened the door fully. Her small apartment smelled like baby powder and warm food. Toys were neatly placed in a box in the corner. Noah and Caleb were in their playpen, playing with blocks, safe and quiet. The room was small, but it felt alive. It felt like a home, something Jonathan had not felt in years. Caleb looked up first. His whole face lit up. He grabbed the side of the playpen, pulled himself up, and reached out. "Daddy." Jonathan froze. His breath caught in his throat. He had no words. Anna rushed to explain. "He does that sometimes," she said quickly. "He calls men that. Please do not take it wrong. He does not understand." Jonathan shook his head. He whispered, "Do not apologize." And he stepped into the small apartment, holding the toy car in his hand, ready to say the words he had buried for years. Jonathan stood in Anna's small apartment, holding the toy car in his hand like it was something delicate. He looked around slowly, trying to understand how a room so tiny could feel warmer than his entire mansion. For a moment, he forgot how to breathe. He saw Noah and Caleb reaching for him through the playpen, smiling like he had never hurt their mother, smiling like they knew him. Anna stood still, unsure of what to do. Her hands were shaking, but she kept them close to her sides. She did not want to look weak in front of him again. She had cried enough for one day. Jonathan finally lifted his eyes to her. His voice came out softer than she had ever heard it. "I am sorry. I came to say that." Anna swallowed hard. "You do not owe me anything, Mr. Cole. Please," he said quietly, "call me Jonathan." Anna looked down, her fingers twisting together. "Why are you here?" Jonathan took a slow breath. "Because I did not treat you fairly. Because you were doing what a mother does, and I punished you for that. And because your boys—" He paused, looking at Noah and Caleb. "They reminded me of something I had forgotten." Anna stood still, waiting. She did not speak. She was afraid to hope. Jonathan slowly sat on the old couch, as if unsure he even belonged in such a small place. He rested the toy car on his knee and stared at it. Then he said the words he had never said out loud in years. 7 years ago, my wife, Emily, was pregnant. 8 months. We were coming home from a class for new parents. She was laughing, talking about how we should paint the baby's room yellow. He paused, his voice shaking. And then a drunk driver went through a red light, hit us on her side. Anna covered her mouth, her eyes filling. She whispered, "I am so sorry." Jonathan nodded slowly. "She died instantly. Our daughter, Lily, she did not make it either." Jonathan wiped his eyes with his sleeve. "I walked out of that car without one scratch. Everyone told me it was a miracle, but I did not feel like it was." Noah whimpered softly, sensing the heavy emotion in the room. Anna picked him up gently and held him on her hip, while Caleb stared at Jonathan with curious eyes. Jonathan sighed. "After that, I bought that big house. Told myself I needed peace, needed quiet. But really, I just wanted to hide. I thought if I made the house silent, I would not hear my own thoughts or memories." Anna looked at him with soft eyes. She knew what pain looked like. She knew what it felt like to carry sadness alone. She knew how silence could become a prison. Jonathan continued quietly. "And then, yesterday happened. I saw your boys in that room. And for the first time in 7 years, I felt something. I did not understand it at first, but when your son touched my leg and asked if I was sad, something inside me broke. I have been sad for years, Anna, and I tried to bury it." Anna sat slowly on the chair across from him. She held Noah close and touched Caleb's head gently. She did not speak right away. She needed to give him space to finish. Jonathan looked at her, eyes red. "I did not come here to take your job back from you. I came to say sorry. You needed help. You needed support, and I made you feel like you were wrong for trying to survive." Anna looked down at her wrist, where a small bruise from carrying boxes showed faintly. She whispered, "You had rules. I broke them." Jonathan shook his head. "No, I had walls, not rules. I hid behind them because I was afraid that if I let anything close, I would lose it too. But I was wrong. I judged you without understanding your struggle." The words felt heavy between them. Anna breathed slowly. She looked at Noah, then at Caleb, then at Jonathan. He stood up gently from the couch and walked closer. He did not touch her, but he lowered himself to be eye level with the twins. Caleb reached out again, smiling shyly. Jonathan touched his little hand gently, almost afraid he would break it. Jonathan whispered, "I am sorry for raising my voice. I am sorry for frightening you." Anna's chest tightened. She had not expected this. She had never seen a man admit he was wrong, not like this. Jonathan stood again and looked around her apartment. The cracked walls, the worn carpet, the tiny kitchen with one window. He saw how hard she fought every day for her children. He realized she had more strength than most people he knew. He spoke softly. "Anna, I came here to ask something, and I know it is strange. I know it sounds unexpected, but please listen before you say no." Anna lifted her eyes slowly, afraid to hear the question. Jonathan took a deep breath. "I do not want you and the boys to live like this. I do not want you to struggle alone. And I do not want my house to stay empty." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "I want you to come back, not as my housekeeper, not as someone who works for me." Anna's heart beat fast. She held Noah tighter. Jonathan continued, "Come live with me, all of you, not as workers, as people who belong there, as a family or something close to it. I do not know what to call it yet." Anna's breath caught. She felt like the room tilted for a second. She whispered, "Jonathan, you fired me 2 days ago. You were angry at my children. You said they could not even step inside." "I know," he said softly. "And I regret that more than anything. I was scared. Scared of how much their presence made me feel. Scared that if I let them stay, I would start wanting more. And I did." Anna's voice shook. "How do I know this is not pity?" Jonathan shook his head. "It is not pity. It is selfish. I am asking because I do not want to be alone anymore. Because those 2 days without you and the boys felt longer than 7 years of silence. Because your children brought light back into a house that forgot what life felt like." Anna looked at the twins, then at Jonathan. Her heart felt torn between fear and hope. Noah reached out toward Jonathan again, smiling, saying da, 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 not fully forming the word, but close. Caleb giggled and followed. Jonathan felt his chest tighten. 2 years he had lived without purpose. 2 years Anna had fought without support. Now he stood in a room filled with more life than his mansion ever had. Anna whispered, "I cannot raise these boys on hope alone. I need stability. I need a safe place. But you cannot expect me to fix the sadness in you. I am barely holding myself together." Jonathan nodded gently. "I know, and I do not expect you to fix me, but I am willing to fix myself. If you come, I will go back to therapy. I will work on myself. I will do whatever it takes to make sure I do not bring my pain to your children." Anna looked at him for a long moment, her eyes soft, her heart trembling. She had prayed for a way out. She had prayed for a chance, but she never imagined it would come like this. Jonathan whispered again, "Please, let us try." Anna swallowed hard. The apartment felt too small for the moment. She could hear her own heartbeat. She looked at her boys, their innocent faces, their trust in her, their need for a place to grow. She whispered, "Yes, we will try." Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment, letting out a slow breath he had been holding. "Thank you, Anna. You will not regret this." The next day, Anna packed everything she owned into 2 suitcases and a plastic bag of toys. Noah held her leg. Caleb clapped happily. They did not understand what was happening, but they trusted their mother. When they arrived at Jonathan's mansion in Charlotte, something changed immediately. The house no longer felt like a museum. It felt awake. The boys ran across the big living room, their laughter bouncing off the walls. Toys started appearing on the floors. The kitchen smelled like real food for the first time in years. Light filled the rooms that had stayed dark for too long. Jonathan watched them quietly. He smiled softly, a small smile that felt new on his face. He knew the road ahead would not be easy. He knew healing took time, but he also knew something else, something he had forgotten. Houses do not become homes through silence. They become homes through life, through mistakes, through tears, through laughter, through family. And for the first time in 7 long years, Jonathan Cole believed he finally had one again.